So CA just dropped a stream detailing more of what's coming in the Lords of the End Times DLC, starting with, as you might have guessed, the Glottkin. These three big lads, well, one big lad and two smaller lads on the big lad. This is the third Legendary Lord of the DLC, alongside Nagash and fucking Toddy. This was a triplet of brothers that were ravaged by the Empire and turned to Nurgle, and now they're this. You've got Otto Glott at the top, the kind of leader of the gang, and then also up there is Ethrak Glott, the more nerdier caster brother, and the big boy is Gurek Glott, who is obviously just a big mass of disgustingness. So that's the Glottkin, a Nurgle / Chaos themed Legendary Lord. We do get to see a bit of in-game combat footage with the stat unit card, which they did say is most likely to change, so take it with a pinch of salt. We can see though it's just a big massive monster that's going to do lots of damage. Doesn't have a ton of armor though, so perhaps susceptible to the missiles. You'll see in a sec it has a long range sort of breath attack. And at the top of the unit card it does say Spellcaster, even though there's no spells listed. We'll assume those are going to come later though. And I imagine he'll have his own mixed lorebook of spells, rather than just a lore of Nurgle or something. And as a faction, the Glottkin are going to be under the Warriors of Chaos banner rather than the Nurgle banner, but they'll have more access to all the Nurgle demon units, and of course its own unique mechanics as well. So big lad Glottkin likely going to be a nightmare for anyone not the Glottkin, leaving just one Legendary Lord left on the Lords of the End Time DLC roster. We've got Toddy, we've got Nagash, we've got Glottkin, and somebody else. Who's it going to be? We shall see. They also showed some of the new Nurgle units coming with the Glottkin, the Putrid Blight Kings first of all, 3 different types of these. Being a Nurgle unit, they're very tough, lots of armor, silver shield, big melee defense, lots of health, a little bit less on the damage output side for these axe and shield ones. That's where the dual axe version are going to come in, more of the damage dealer, less on the defenses, no shield, less melee defense, but bigger weapon strength bonus versus infantry, so they're your infantry killer. And then there's the Great Weapon version, pretty much the same thing again as the last one, just bonus versus large, so good against the large things, a little less on the defenses. So 3 big monstrous infantry type units. These are a nice addition by all means, but they're not really going to do much for the Warriors of Chaos roster, as they've already got things already in these roles already, from trolls to blood beasts to dragon ogres. But they will be a bit nicer in the Nurgle roster, where some of these roles aren't as filled, so should be a more impactful addition for them. And then another big boy monster, this one with a little bit of a unique selling point.
Big fucking metal arms!
This is the Chaos Siege Giant, which as you can imagine is designed for tearing down walls. He's got lots of armor on as well, so he's going to be tougher than your regular giant, which is usually easily shot down by any old missile unit. And we can see a couple of his abilities here, one of them removing charge defense and expert charge defense. That's a little different, and we can probably safely assume he's going to go through bone like batter when it comes to dealing with walls. So for Warriors of Chaos, that probably means no more waiting around to build siege equipment, because you got these. We can imagine one of these will probably be able to put 2 or 3 holes in walls pretty quick before it maybe gets shot down, depending on the enemy missiles. So potentially pretty impactful to the siege game at least. And then lastly, we've got the Basilisk. This a creepy little 8-legged monster, very quick on its feet with 82 speed. Now it's going to be fairly tough and do a good bit of damage, but it's not going to excel in either of those areas. As we can see, it's listed as a support monster at the top there. And we can see a couple of its abilities here, giving debuffs to nearby enemies. So going to be good mixing in along the front lines, helping to support your infantry troops perhaps, and helping them do their Nurgle thing of just surviving for goddamn ever. So some cool stuff, some cool units coming alongside the Glottkin. Now alongside the Lord of the End Times DLC, we'll be getting some updates to various mechanics and factions, starting off with changes to the endgame scenarios. Now on the left here, you can see how they currently are, all the things that we've been playing for years. And on the right hand side is what's going to be changing and what's going to be coming with it. Of course, all subject to change, but multiple foreshadowing events, so before the big event happens, before the endgame event happens, you're going to get little events that kind of set it up and build it up in some way. You'll still be able to customize which events happen and when they happen, so that's good. Unique mechanics per endgame as well, so they're not all kind of just the same thing as they are currently, so that'll be nice when they're a bit more tailored to a certain experience. Bespoke AI goals, so again, just more tailored experiences to the faction, to the end game event that it's kind of revolving around, rather than just them all kind of being the same thing, just with different factions. New music and cinematics for all that, so that'll be nice to build the story of things a little bit more. Final battles to that end as well. And varied difficulty curves, precisely what that means, we'll have to wait and see, I guess. And just to be clear, the current endgame crises are still going to be there in the game as they are to some extent, but we'll have these more tailored endgames as well. Now we have an example of this with Archaon, the big man, bringing the end times. We can see on the left there, all the chaos-aligned factions will unite under Archaon. Regions raised by his faction will not be able to be occupied again until you've taken out Archaon and dealt with the endgame. Provinces with some regions destroyed will get a negative effect from being near the carnage, and all factions that aren't part of the chaos side and that are going to die horribly by the chaos will get huge diplomatic bonuses, so you can get peace with everyone that you're at war with and try to focus all on dealing with the chaos. So that's all sounding pretty great, and does sound like it'll make it a proper end times experience, especially not being able to reclaim settlements and stuff like that. And over on the right hand side we can see how to defeat the invasion. Archaon is impossibly strong at the start of the invasion. He's got like 95% ward save or something. We've got to weaken him over the course of the campaign. We can do that by destroying invasion forces around the map. That's only going to reduce 1% though. Or there's 5 dark fortresses around the map, which if you can take those out will take 10% off his ward save. So a potential 50% to come off there. But obviously defeating Archaon is the only proper way to end this endgame. And it does say when he's first defeated in battle, however, Archaon is likely to make a defiant last stand. Whatever the hell that exactly means, again, we'll have to see. He's probably going to get all his health back or something, but here we can see a little bit of tracking of the Chaos Invasion. 5 of 5 fortresses remaining, 50 of 50 forces remaining, 94% ward save, and he's destroyed 25% of the world at this point. So this sounds like it could get pretty bad pretty quick if you don't start to challenge him. And this is going to come with visual effects, making the world look much more chaosy. This, I'm pretty sure, is the Middenland area, Middenheim being here, Brasskeep up here where Festus starts. So as you can see, there's lots of holes in the ground, lots of chaos symbols around. Everything is turning to Scheisse. So yeah, it's going to be pretty crazy when you see like half of the map looking like this. That's going to be pretty nightmarish. But yeah, overall, this endgame sounding way more exciting. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the endgames. They are quite boring as they are. This sounds much more appealing though, gives you a direct, clear goal to aim at. Sounds good. Also, the big lad himself has had a little bit of a tidy up visually, mostly just textures. He looks a bit darker, a bit meaner now, and just a bit more up to date with the more recent visuals of the game, especially noticeable on the fur of his cloak. And also his weapon and shield have had an upgrade as well, so that's going to be a little bit different too. And his horse, Drogar, Darren, whatever the hell it's called, that's got a similar visual update, just getting mostly a little bit darker, a little bit sexier. At least if I was a lady horse, I'd be turned on by this bad boy. Anyway, so yeah, Archaon getting some loves physically, visually, and mechanically. Very exciting stuff. And also exciting stuff for all you vampire enjoyers. They're getting a rework as well and a bunch of new mechanics. We can see on the right the rework stuff, Raised Dead. That's pretty much your primary form of recruitment mostly anyway, but now that's going to be actually made the focus rather than recruiting from buildings. That's going to tie into the new corpse resource from battle mechanic you can see on the left. So in a province, when you have a battle and kill a bunch of dudes, those dead dudes will be able to be recruited into your army in some form as different units somehow. So assumedly the more enemies you kill, the better stuff you'll be able to get maybe. But that's going to be the resource for the tiers 1 to 3 units. For the higher tier units, the 4 and 5, that's where the blood kisses mechanics are going to come in, but it's going to be changed somehow. Didn't really give the details, but that's going to tie in with that anyway. There's also going to be some unit caps linked to the buildings, so if you want more of certain types of units, you got to build more of the recruitment buildings. Similar to the Tomb Kings. The Blood Kiss resource that you use to recruit the higher tier units can also be used to convert regions to new undead wasteland climates. So if you take a region but the climate is not favorable to you, well, you can change the climate to make it more suitable for you, but it can be changed back by other factions if they take over. There's also changes to the tech tree and such, of course, and vampire layers is a big one. Now if you want to recruit vampires, you'll have to find their layers, and that will give you different vampires depending on the layer you find. And from there, you'll be able to kind of build your own vampire. That's going to tie into the bloodlines thing. So yeah, you'll be able to spend the Blood Kiss resource to kind of tailor the vampire and make it how you want it to be to some extent. So yeah, that's all sounding pretty cool. There's also a confederation feature, but they didn't really say anything on that. But we can assume that's just going to be an easier way to confederate factions, or maybe to bring them back from the dead. If Vlad von Carstein gets wiped out and removed from existence, you'll be able to bring him back to serve you. So yeah, it's been a long wait for the vampire counts to get their rework and their update, but it's finally coming with update 9.0 and the Lords of the End Times. And it doesn't end there, because there's also a big overhaul to the victory conditions. Now currently you can see what it is. I've made a few edits there just to make it a little more accurate, but what it's going to be reworked into sounds much better. So bespoke per Lord, so it's going to be more tailored to the Lord, the faction, what they're all about, thematic, mechanic focus rewards, so again just relating to the Lord I suppose, and improved UI. Now we got a few examples of this. The easiest way to see this So here's the current objectives for Thorgrim of the Dwarves. Destroy the Crooked Moon, couple of legendary grudges, destroy goddamn settlements, 30 and 60. That's the most tedious, annoying part of all the victory conditions. I think most people will agree. Well, here's how it's going to look. So first of all, we notice no more settlement requirements. No 30 and 60, that shit is gone. Thanks Sigmar. We can see in the short, destroy the 2 nearby Orc factions. That's cool, that makes sense. Get to the Gorm Age of Reckoning 2 times. Confederate 2 other legendary Dwarf Lords. That can be done with their mechanics. Complete a legendary grudge and build the Throne of the Hall of the High King in Karaz Akarak. So all much better, much more to the theme of the Dwarfs and about Thorgrim. And then for the long victory, a few extensions on that. Get some Oath Gold, take a few settlements, build a building, win a big battle. So yeah, all in all, sounding much better and much more like the Victory Conditions Overhaul mod that I know a lot of people use, and they did say that that mod had inspired this somewhat, but they're not trying to replace the mod directly, they're just kind of doing their own thing. The mod does give you multiple ways to win campaigns, which I think is better and maybe what they should have done, but here they're just kind of doing their own thing, which is similar, but just still focusing on one way to win. Either way, it's a goddamn sight better than what we have currently. And just a couple more examples. Here's Taurox, again those 30 and 60 settlements, take out the entire Empire land. Well, with the new update, it's going to be like this, getting Rampage rewards, Ruination level 3, win 3 battles in 1 turn, raise up Minotaurs. These numbers are going to change as well, they did, some of these are just kind of placeholder numbers, but raise up Minotaur capacity, kill enemies with Minotaurs as well, so that's focusing around Taurox, who is of course king of the Minotaurs and does buff them up with the skill points and such. They are his kind of unique unit that he focuses on. So it makes sense for his victory conditions to be around them somewhat, and then in the long victory, taking those 5 Herdstone regions and building those in 5 locations, so they're all over the world as well though, from Kislev to Corone to Lothern to Altdorf. These are all over the map, so you can choose where you go. You're not going to have to be locked into sticking in one part of the world, which is great for a campaign like Taurox's, where you don't need to stay in one place. You can just go wherever the hell you want. And lastly, here's Tic-Tac-Toe's old victory conditions, horrible 30-60, and also his long victory conditions is ridiculous. Go and take basically the entirety of Lustria, even though he starts on a different continent miles away. It's silliness. Well, now it's much better just using spawning sequence, that's naturally done anyway, researching technologies, and taking regions that are actually in his part of the world. Very nice. Also at the bottom of the short one there, you can see recruit 5 flying units, again tying into the units that he's all about, and you have to increase their rank to rank 6, so that's a little bit different, I like that. So yeah, you got to recruit them, keep them alive, and use them. That seems like a nice goal. Hopefully we see that on a bunch of different Legendary Lords that focus around a certain type of unit. But yeah, all in all, safe to say, victory conditions are sounding much better, and this is going to be for all the Legendary Lords. They're all getting this treatment, everyone's getting overhauled. It should be bloody smashing. So there we go, that's the news of what's coming with the Glottkin, with the Lords of the End Times DLC, and the update with it. We shall keep an eye out for that 4th Legendary Lord of the DLC and see what else is coming along the way. I hope you've enjoyed this, thanks for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, check out the YouTube memberships or the Patreon. Otherwise, I'll see you in the future.